Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Live to you from my beautiful sukkah at home. Here is our beautiful sukkah, the schach overhead, that overhead fan that won't keep me cool. Our beautiful walls, beautiful. I have a little esrog here ready. So we are live in our sukkah. I'm going to be beginning with a blessing. I did it before, but there's a blessing you make when you sit in the sukkah, and really giving a class in the sukkah, surrounded by the love, by the hug, by the embrace, by the beauty of the sukkah is the greatest thing in the world. So I want to make a blessing on the fact that we can sit together, virtually together, not actually together. I'm in my backyard, but that we're sitting virtually together from our sukkah. And so I want to make a blessing. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Borei Minei Mizonot Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kedishanu B'Mitzvotav V'Tzivanu Leishev Pasuka. And yes, that is a homemade cookie, not made by Chana, made by Mushka. Made by Mushka. This is an iced coffee that's basically finished. Okay. So tonight's class, I hope, will be very, very informative, very, very enlightening, and very practical on several different levels. That's a good cookie, Mushka. Okay. I'll put the rest aside for later. This class, let's do is watch. Oops. All of you are watching. Good evening. Good evening. It's good to see people that are watching us. Bruce, a happy sukkahs. Marlene, a happy sukkahs to you. Good to see you with us. Tonight's class is going to be about the lulav and the esrog. We can get out of the bag here. The lulav and the esrog. Excuse me. And what I would like to do tonight, just to give you an outline of what we'd like to do. First of all, tonight's class is in the merit and the schus of Yitzchak Tzvi ben Yosef and Atzeret bat Hoshea. What I would like to do tonight is I would like to give you many different dimensions to understanding this very, very important mitzvah of shaking the lulav and the esrog. I spoke about it in Shul over the holiday, and I made a not a confession, but a recognition that perhaps during the course of the high holidays, when there's so much going on and so much activity and so much energy, and then for me personally, I have so much pleasure and joy and spiritual energy that I feel when sitting in the sukkah, that I kind of focus more on the sukkah part of the holiday and less on the lulav and the esrog. So this year we're going to change that. I want to spend some time tonight. I can go for hours over the course. This is wobbling, but over the course of the last few days, I had time to actually sit and learn, as I was sharing in Shul on the second day of the holiday. Shabbat afternoon, I came home after our meal. We had some guests, and then I sat down, and I didn't have to go back to the synagogue. The phone was off, the computer was off. I didn't know about anyone that died. It was wonderful, and I sat and learned for several hours. A beautiful book that I forgot to bring to the sukkah with me, so it's too late now. Brought everything else. There's a lot of stuff to set up in the sukkah outside. And I wanted to share with all of you a few of the messages of the lulav and the esrog. What we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of the four species. I will explain to you exactly what it is, explain to you up close. I'll show you some different, try and show you what exactly makes it kosher and not kosher. And then, of course, like every class that we do, I will try and find some spiritual lessons and some spiritual messages that we can take in our lives from the lulav and the esrog. Hopefully some new ideas, not from the typical, the four Jews, the four species, and the smell and the taste, but some new ideas that I think will be new to, if not everyone, but definitely most of the people that are watching tonight. So l'chaim on the little bit that's left of my iced coffee. And now we're out of liquid. Let us begin. First of all, let us begin with a very important announcement. If there's anyone that is watching that would like to come to the sukkah and shake the lulav and esrog together with us, hello, everyone that's watching. Hello, Jonathan. Hello, Luis. I am posting in the comments on Facebook a link to a calendar link where you can go online and you can choose a time and you can book your very own appointment. 15 minutes, well, you will have my undivided attention. to have some time to schmooze, and of course to shake the lulav and the esrog, and to have a cookie in the lulav in the sukkah, etc. So if you are watching tonight and you don't have your own lulav and esrog, please go online, click a time that works for you to come over, or just you can come in and surprise me as well. But I can't promise you I'll be available. If you book a time, I will be there, God willing. You never know what God plans. Today I had to cancel something because I had a funeral. But God willing, I will be there to sit in the sukkah together with you and talk. Good evening, Esther. Good evening, everyone that's watching. So I'm sure you're all familiar, all or most of you are familiar with the verse in the Torah that tells us about the mitzvah of the 4 species. So the Torah tells us, I should really find it, whatever we'll find, I'll type in the verse. The Torah says, Ulekachtem lachem, Yom Rishon, you should take for yourself on the first day of the month 4 species. What are the 4 species? The Pri Eitz Hadar, the Esrog. We'll go one at a time. Let's start with the first one. And the idea of the taking for yourself is also very important. That's another conversation that we already had in Shul. Let's start with the Esrog. And I have a lot to share tonight, so we'll go as much as we can, and we'll do as much as we can. I hope you're all with us and watching. Okay. This is the Esrog. The Esrog, Chag Sameach Bindi. The Esrog is called a Pri Hadar, a beautiful fruit. And the reason why it's called a beautiful fruit is for many reasons. But the tradition, there's a tradition that was passed down, that's in the Medrash, I believe, that when Moses was on Mount Sinai, and God told him this verse, and God said to him, you should take for yourself a Pri Eitz Hadar, a beautiful fruit, as a esrog. So Moshe Rabbeinu did not know what was the beautiful fruit. I'm going to find the verse. I want to just share the verse. So let's just find the one second. So Moshe did not know what is the beautiful fruit. So it says that Hashem took Moshe from Mount Sinai and he transported him to Italy, where the beautiful fruits grow in Italy. And there he made the beautiful fruits grow, and he showed him the esrog growing on the tree, and he said, this is the beautiful fruit that you should make. Okay, I was just finding the verse. I want to show it to you inside. I should have had it prepared, but that's okay. We did a lot today. So let me go share my screen. 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's important that you all see the, where are we over here? Okay, Chrome tab is giving 1 second. Here we go. Emor Torah reading. So you should all see the screen in front of you. Here is talking about the 7 days of Sukkot. I'm just going to read one verse very quickly. Verse number 40. You should take for yourself on the first day the fruit. Here it translates it, the fruit of the Hadar tree. The fruit of the Hadar tree in Hebrew, Pri Eitz Hadar, the fruit of a beautiful tree. Hadar is beautiful. Kapot Tamarim, a date palm fronds, a branch of a braided tree, and the willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God for a 7-day period. So here you have a very vague verse, open to a lot of interpretation, and the verse is basically telling us, doesn't say you should take a lulav and esrog. It doesn't say that at all. It says you should take Pri Eitz Hadar, which means the fruit of a beautiful tree. It says you should take Kapot Tamarim, which literally means the braided, the date of a palm, the branch of a palm, sorry. The Anaf Eitzavos means a braided branch. The Arve Nachal, which is the willow, the streams, the willows of the stream. You should take them, you should rejoice before Hashem for 7 days. So, we're going to go through each one at a time. Let's start with the first one. The fruit of a beautiful tree. What makes this fruit a beautiful tree? Oopsies. What makes this fruit the fruit of a beautiful tree? So there's many interpretations, many different reasons. As I said to you, the Medrash says that actually Moshe was taken by God to Italy, and he saw the esrogim growing on the tree, and he saw this is the tradition that the beautiful fruit is an esrog tree. Now, there's many ideas in the esrog connected to the pre-Eitz Hadar. I wasn't planning to talk about this, but just very quickly, the fruit of the esrog is a fruit that remains on the tree the entire year, the full season of four seasons. It stays on the tree. Hadar, which means it lives there. It's also from the word hydro in Greek, because this is a fruit that requires lots of hydration. It's also connected to the pre and the eitz, because the tree has the same flavor as the fruit, etc., etc. But let me show you a few halachot, what makes a beautiful and kosher esrog. So I have in my hand over here 2 esrogim. Put it in front of the camera so you can see. They're both yellow. Both of them do not have a pitom. The reason why they don't have a pitom, the pitom is the little thing that goes on the top. The little thing that goes on the top. And the reason why neither of them have the thing on the top is because they come from Italy. This is the Chabad custom to use a esrog deliberately that comes from Italy, because that's what God showed Moses on Mount Sinai. The Italian esrogim, when they grow, the pitom falls off while it's still growing. And since it came when it was disconnected from the tree, it already did not have the pitom on top, so it's kosher. If your esrog came with a pitom, and then for whatever reason you broke it, if you watched the film Ushpizin that I mentioned last week, if you watch the film Ushpizin, you'll know that if you break off the pitom, the esrog is no longer kosher, it is invalid to use. The way to know, I'm going to teach you something very interesting. The way to know if the pitom was always on the fruit and it broke off later, which would then make the esrog not kosher to use, or it was something that was from before. Look at the esrog, the top. You'll see that there's an indent. There's like a little growing, like a little hole almost inside the esrog. You saw that little hole. If it would have broken off by a person, if it would have fallen, if it would have fell over, there wouldn't be that hole. I'll show you again. That like little indent, that like hollow in the space, that empty hole shows that it's not that the fact that there's no pitom is because that's the way that it grew, and therefore it is perfectly kosher as is. Good evening, Evan. I want to say tonight's class should also be in the merit of an old-time friend, Morty Cohen, Moshe ben Nachum, who passed away, who was buried today. Good evening, Gail. Good evening, Randy. Good evening, Meryl. Good evening, Andrea. Okay, so that's the first rule about an esrog. If you see someone holding an esrog like this, let me take this again. If you see someone holding an esrog with this thing on the top, I'm sorry to say you're holding the esrog upside down. This little part over here is the part that's cut off the tree. So when they snip it off the tree, that's the part that's the tree. So the way that it's supposed to be held is like this. I will just tell you, just for a second, that there are some people that have the custom when they make the blessing, they hold the esrog upside down like this, and then after the blessing, they turn it the right way and put it with the lulav and they shake it all around. The Chabad custom is not to do that. The Chabad custom is not to hold the esrog at all. We only hold the lulav during the blessing, and only after the blessing do we then take the esrog and put them together and shake. The reason for that is because, generally speaking, we make a bracha on a mitzvah before we do the mitzvah, not after. We make a blessing on the mezuzah before we put it up, or when we put it up. We make a blessing on the matzah before we eat it. We make a blessing on Shabbat candles before we light the candles, etc., before we enjoy the candles, etc. So once you're holding the lulav and the esrog, you already kind of did the mitzvah. The shaking in all directions is the custom, how we do it. But really, biblically, all you need to do is shake it. Once you shook them once, you already fulfilled your basic obligation of shaking the lulav and the esrog. And therefore, since we don't want you to be holding it and fulfill the mitzvah before you make the blessing, so some hold it upside down so they don't fulfill the mitzvah. We just don't hold. We don't want to hold a beautiful esrog upside down, so we don't hold it at all. Now, you should know that there are people that spend hundreds of dollars to buy a beautiful esrog. Hundreds of dollars. What makes an esrog more beautiful or less beautiful than another? Now, I wish that I had a whole bunch of esrogim. I would show you some of the differences, but I'll show you a few differences, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Number one is you want it to be clean. Clean means that there shouldn't be a single speck or mark or dot anywhere on the esrog, especially on the top part. So this is my esrog that I personally use. It's a gorgeous esrog. So thank my father-in-law that gets it for me from New York. It is beautiful. I'm putting it up to the camera so you can see it carefully. If you look at it, you'll see it's spotless. There's not a single scratch, not a single dot anywhere on the esrog. Also, the shape of the esrog is very important. You want to have a very, very symmetrical shape with the pitom right in the center, not crooked off to a side. You want it centered. There is a little gartel, a little belt over here that kind of separates the top half and the bottom half. You want to have those ridges that give it a certain texture. The esrog should not be smooth. You want it to be textured. You want it to have ridges that give it also color. If you notice this one, which is also a nice esrog, but it's not on the same level. First, it's a little bit greener, but that's okay. Green does not make an esrog not kosher. But for example, do you see over here, there's a spot on them, holding it too close. Do you see there's a scratch on the esrog? You see here another scratch? And point right over, there's a scratch on the esrog. Over here, there's a scratch on the esrog. So because there's a spot on the esrog where it's scratched, that takes away from the beauty of the esrog. Here on the other side, there's another little mark, if you can see it. Generally speaking, though, this is a pretty nice esrog. It has shape. It's a little bit lopsided, though. Like if you look at it carefully, you'll see that this side is fatter than this side. It's not perfectly symmetrical, as opposed to this very beautiful esrog that's really very, very symmetrical and very centered with almost an equal, not exactly, I mean, still at the end of the day, no food is going to be exactly like a computer. But if you notice, this one has a little bit of a, like a lump on this side. It's not exactly straight. But this is definitely a beautiful, a nice quality esrog. This is not a basic level esrog either. I actually ran out. I had to get more sets. I paid more for. It's one of the sets that I'm using in the shul. Notice also the indent of the pitom, light in there, where the pitom fell off. Okay. This esrog and this esrog, and I have more, but I'm going to use these just for tonight, are what we consider beautiful fruit. The reason why people pay so much money for an esrog like this has a little spot over there versus an esrog like this that's truly beautiful. When you look at it, you're not going to find anywhere a single spot. It is a perfect color, beautiful, clean complexion all the way around, beautiful shape. It's not very ridgy, but it does have the lines, not very ridgy, but it has a very clean, very nice shape to it that I like very much. So the reason why people would spend so much money in order to have a beautiful esrog is because the Torah describes the esrog as a pri-eitz hadar, a beautiful fruit. And since the Torah is called a pri-eitz hadar, a beautiful fruit, therefore we spend a lot of money to make it as beautiful as we can. And in fact, this says in the verse, Zekeli va'anvehu. This is my God, and I will glorify him, I will beautify him. And there's a very famous medrash that says, Va'anvehu, I will make him beautiful. How do I make God beautiful? With a beautiful sukkah, with a beautiful lulav and esrog. And therefore, many have the custom to beautify their sukkah, to hang many decorations in the sukkah, to hang fruit in the sukkah, etc. The Chabad custom is not to hang things in the sukkah, because we believe that the sukkah itself is beautiful. The sukkah itself is beautiful. We don't want to distract from the natural beauty of the sukkah with other decorations. But when it comes to the lulav and the esrog, so the beauty of the esrog and of the lulav is exactly that makes it beautiful. Okay, I really have a lot more to say, but I really want to try and give an overview of not only what the four species are, but like the halacha, to explain why people spend so long looking for a lulav and esrog, what makes it kosher, what will make it not kosher. So let me just say one more thing about what makes it not kosher, and then we're going to move on to the lulav. And again, stay tuned. We will get to the spiritual lesson, a new lesson that I don't think anyone watching knows of the 4 species. You don't know how much this my esrog costed. I cannot share with you. That's to me and my father-in-law. But several $100s probably. Need a drink. Okay. Anyway, if part of a lulav gets dented, not just a screw like a speck or a dent, but if a part of it is missing or if the piton falls off, then it's obviously no longer kosher. Okay, let's get to the lulav. Here we have a lulav. Okay, the lulav is a date palm, comes from the date of a tree, and a good lulav should have several things. First of all, it should be straight. So I'm going to try and show this to you. Let's see if I can do it on the camera. It's not going to work because it has all this on it. But here, let me do this a second. If you look at the lulav, you're going to see there's a spine. You know, let me do like this better. Here is a spine. Do you see the spine of the lulav? And put it down. Here is the spine of the lulav. This line in the middle, go back so you'll see. This line in the middle, that is the spine. Okay? Now the spine is the most important part of the lulav. You want the spine to be perfectly straight. Wrong side. This is the inside, by the way. This brown, and the brown is actually hold it with the spine, this side, facing you. And you're going to see that the spine, all the leaves come out of the spine. All the leaves come out of the spine. You can see the spine very clearly right in the middle. And you can see all the leaves that are coming out of the spine, moving along. So you see all the leaves coming out. Now hold on here a second. Let me show you. So the leaves are separating, which is fine. That's kosher. As long as the middle leaf does not separate. As long as the middle leaf is together, it's fine. Now, what I do have for you, my friends, what I do have to show you, because I don't want to play with a kosher lulav, I do have a non-kosher lulav that I'm going to use for demonstration for tonight's class. The reason why I have a non-kosher lulav is because, I had to make rings for the esrog, for the lulav. So our custom is to make rings. We actually make the rings from the very branches of the lulav. I'm not going to demonstrate it tonight. We take this, we fold it, we make a little ring, and these rings that you see on the lulav, these rings over here, they are made from branches of this lulav that I took off. Okay? So now let me show you what a non-kosher lulav is and how the middle leaf separates. First of all, the lulav that I'm showing you is not kosher because it's lost its color. It's dried out. So in order to be kosher, it still must be green and have the color of a green lulav. I'm actually not using mine. Mine is much bigger and nicer, but we're going to use this one for demonstrations. And I'm going to compare it to this one, which has really spread apart. But that's not what makes it not kosher. I'm going to show you soon what makes it not kosher. But one issue is that if you look at the coloring of it, it's already gotten white. It's hard to see with the lighting. It's not really so green. The color has gotten white. But in addition, I want to show you the top, the middle leaf. And so this one, I don't mind to pull it apart and give you a better demonstration. So here's the top part. Here's our spine, right? So you see our spine right here in the middle. We're going to follow, let's do it this way. We're going to follow the spine. So we're following the spine up, 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 up. If you can see, again, the lighting is not great. We're following the spine up until we get to the very top leaf. Here is the very top leaf. If you're going to notice, the top leaf is split. Let me explain to you. Every single leaf of the lulav that I just took this off a second ago is actually not one leaf. It's actually two leaves. Okay? Every leaf is like that. There are two leaves that are stuck together. If the middle leaf gets bent, like this is bent, you see how the middle is bent, it's not together? Look, let me show you comparison. You'll see it for yourself. Look at the end of this lulav, it's straight. And look at the end of this lulav, it's bent. And because this lulav has a straight edge, let me put it down a little bit so you'll see it better. Because this lulav is straight, there's no bent, and the middle leaf is all together. Even the leaves are separating. The middle leaf is together, it's kosher. But this one, the middle leaf, it's separated. If you look right over here, it's separated. And if you can see, there's two parts. This is the leaf itself came apart. Look, I'm going to pull it all the way apart. I want you to see that it's separated. You see this? I don't know if you saw it on the camera, but that was here. This is the middle leaf itself that is separated. You see that? That's one leaf that I'm pulling in half. So since that leaf separated, this lulav is no longer kosher. It cannot be used to make a blessing. So we're using it for demonstration purposes only. Okay, that's regarding the lulav. I hope you're able to see that. The lulav comes from a date palm. Plenty of them here in Florida that you can see. It is the beginning of a branch. Before the branch begins to separate, you get the, this is the lulav. And obviously, the more tight that the lulav is, the more beautiful, because obviously what makes it not kosher is if the middle leaf begins to separate. So when they're really tight, and if there's a lot of the brown stuff on the back, this has no brown stuff here, which is why it's beginning to separate. And I have another one that we've been using in the synagogue, which is really beginning to separate. It's still kosher. I checked it this morning. I didn't check it out. Still kosher because I don't want to bend it, but if you look at the middle leaf, I can't show it to you. The middle leaf is still intact, but it's coming apart. So that makes it not so beautiful. Whereas the more tight and big and strong that it is, the more beautiful it is. Another thing you look for when you're looking for a lulav is how straight is the spine. Now, this is going to be a little bit harder to do on camera, and you're looking at it from the wrong end. You look at it from this end. You hold it up to your eye. The way you do is you hold it up without the leaves obviously on it, and you look and you see how straight is it. So this one is bending a little bit to the side. Let me show you. I don't know if I'll be able to show it to you. Yeah, but here. If you look at it, you'll notice if you follow the spine, at the top, it bends towards me a little bit. So although it's kosher, it's not as beautiful as a lulav that would be perfectly straight. Okay. Next, let's get to the will. And by the way, the lulav needs to be at least 4 hand breadths. This is a hand breadth. 4 hand breadths. Different opinions between 12.5 inches to 15 inches is the minimum amount of height that the lulav must be. Next, we have the myrtle, the hadas. The hadas is a beautiful fragrance. It's a beautiful, beautiful plant called the myrtle branch. It is called the anaf eitz avos in the Torah. Remember, I showed you before a braided tree. And the reason why it's called braided is because if you look at the leaves, they go like a braid and they actually cover the branch. So here is, I'm just holding one so you can see it. There's a branch behind the leaves. But when you look at the branch, when you look at it, you don't see branch. What you're seeing are leaves covering the branch. And since the leaves are covering the branch, that is a kosher hadas. It's okay. Sometimes you'll see, like for here, for example, you can see a little bit of the branch. That's okay. As long as the majority of the branch is covered by leaves, it's kosher. Obviously, the more branch is covered by leaves, the more muhudar, the more beautiful and the more beautiful that it is. Now, I want to show you something else. This is very interesting, and I'm going to show it to you on the one S. I have on this S lulav different quality, different grade hadassim, meaning even hadassim, there's different levels of beauty. Really, a hadas should be what we call mishulash. Mishulash means that it's wrapped all 3. Shalosh is 3. You want 3 leaves growing out of the same spot of the lulav. So, for example, let's find one branch so we can show a good example. Right here. If you look very carefully over here, let me show I'm showing clearly. Right over here, you see this one spot on the tree, on the branch. There's one. I can show it to you without. I'm sure my Esther here a little bit. 1 second. There we go. If you look right here, so right where my finger is, right on top of my finger, are 3 leaves that are all growing out of the exact same spot on the branch. you see that? So all three, push it down a little bit. Oopsies. All three are growing from the exact same spot on the branch. That is the most beautiful way that a hadla should be. Here, right above it, you see it as well. So you see this three that are all growing out of the exact same spot on the branch. Same thing above it. All three are growing on the exact same spot on the branch. That is a beautiful hadas. Beautiful. However, many of them are not like that, unfortunately. And if you look at a different hadas in the same lulav, for example, here, you're going to notice that there's different leaves coming out of different angles on the different spots on the branch. You see that? So here, if you look at it, you'll see that this one's coming here, and that one's over there, and that one's a drop lower. They're not, although it's kosher, because all the leaves are overlapping each other. So every group of three overlaps the next group of three. But if you look carefully at your hadassim, you're going to notice that many of them are actually not all growing in the same spot. And the most beautiful way is that they all grow together, three on the same spot on the hadas. Hello, Eric. How are you? Yes. And you know what I'm saying? Something very good. You should wrap it around with paper towels to keep your lulav fresh. And of course, here, my esrog, I don't have paper towels. I actually have a hand towel, which is even better. It holds the water much better than the paper towels do. Okay. Then we come to the willow. The willow branch is the arava. This is a willow branch. Okay, so here we have a willow branch. It is a long branch. And you're going to see that it's starting to get a little bit yellow over here, but this is still perfectly green, which is beautiful. We're already on the fourth day of the holiday, and we're still very green. And we haven't lost any of our arava leaves just yet. These are the willow. The willow grows on riversides. They grow, a lot of them grow free flowing. They grow in big bunches. They grow all together in a big group. The Torah says by a hadassim that they should be braided. So braided is a minimum of 3. Our custom is to do more than 3, but you need a minimum of 3. And by the willow, it doesn't say an amount either, but it says arvei nochal, arvei lashon in plural, at least 2. So we put 2 aravot on our willow, on our lulav. Since the arava is not beautiful, we don't add more. We only put 2. But hadassim, especially my lulav is not here. I have many hadassim on my lulav. The Rebbe will put 36 myrtle branches on his lulav. On mine, I put 18 this year, more than I've ever done before. Okay, so this willow branch is fairly basic. You could definitely see the wood, the twig, which is fine. Here, the leaves don't grow covering the branch, but they actually grow outwards. They kind of fall out, as you can see on the willow. I'll show you one more on this one. Here also you can see, don't mind that, but here you can see clearly a very, oh my God, that's all the brown stuff that's in the way. Here you can see a very clear willow, exactly what a willow looks like. Again, it's perfectly kosher. The leaves are green, and all the leaves are there. The part of the suk of the lulav that's most easy to become become not kosher is the arava. The arava, first of all, dries out very quickly. Hence, the advice, as Yonatan said, you have to make sure to preserve your arava. An arava, a willow branch, is left just out on your dining room table for a week, will not make it. It will die and wither up. And when it dies and withers up, it will become all shriveled and dead, and it won't be good. Almost like this lulav. This lulav is all shriveled and dried up already. And this is not even so old. I'm not sure how old it is, but it's already all dried up. Okay, that's regarding the... So you got to preserve it to keep it green and moist and not dead. But even if it's dead and brown, it will still be kosher as long as there's a majority of leaves on the top part of it. If you have less than 2 leaves on either one of the aravos, if you have less than the majority of leaves, it's not ideally kosher. But b'diavad, meaning if you don't have anything else, you could still use it. Not on the first day of the holiday, but for the rest of the holiday. But if there's not even 2 leaves left on one of the willows, then the whole lulav is invalidated. even the lulav, even the hadassim, even the beautiful estrog that we have, this beautiful estrog, none of it will be kosher to make a blessing on unless we have at least minimum of 2 leaves on each one of the 2 willow branches. Okay. So now I think I explained very briefly what the 4 species are. I want to teach you one more very important thing, how we shake it. And then I will spend the remaining 10, 15 minutes we have to give you a beautiful perspective on the lulav and the esrog. So we take the lulav in our right hand. And again, if you are watching and you do not have your own lulav and esrog, please go to the link that I posted before in the Facebook comments. You can schedule a time that I'll be available in the sukkah, just there to talk to you and to help make a blessing on the lulav and the esrog. And you can come by any other time too. Wednesday, we are having a Hebrew school, but it's open for any kids. Sukkah's dance-off. We're renting a huge billboard truck. We'll have like an outdoor dancing competition and all that, socially distanced. If you want to stay in your car with your kid, you can stay in your car. You'll hear the music in your cars. If you're comfortable with them going out of the cars, they can come dance in the parking lot. Whatever your comfort level is, we'll have something. We'll have a sukkah walkthrough with the lulav and the esrog and the refreshments and cookies and ice cream and iced coffee. And Thursday, we're having scotch and cigars in the sukkah for the men's club. And then Saturday night is Simchas Torah at 6:30, a beautiful dinner outdoors in the sukkah to keep everyone outdoors, so it should be safe. But during the next 5 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so it's 4 days that are left, sorry. We have 4 more days in which you can still come to Chabad and shake the lulav and the esrog. Or you can find a friend, or if you have it at home. We hold the lulav in our right hand. We hold it on the bottom, not on the top. We hold it on the bottom, usually over these leaves that I made from the lulav branch. Remember, you want the spine facing you. So we already explained what's the spine. That's the green part from which all the leaves are coming out of. Spine is facing you. You make the blessing on the lulav. We then take the esrog. If you haven't yet done it this holiday, you say Hashachiyanu blessing as well, just the first day. And then you put them together, and you're going to bring it to your heart. Let me move back. You're going to put it to your heart, and then you're going to shake it 3 times to the right. Each time you give it a little shake, you don't need to whip it. There's no reason to break the lulav. You don't have to bash it in the air and wave it around like a sword. You just give it a shake 3 times to the right, and move back even a little bit more. Then 3 times to the left. Each time you go going back to your heart. Then 3 times forward, again, each time, bringing the lulav and the esrog together back to your heart. Then going up, keeping the lulav straight and watching the roof, of course, because you don't want to bend the tip. That would be very bad. Go up and then back to your heart 3 times. Up, back to your heart. Then downwards. We don't point the lulav down. First of all, you could hurt someone. Second of all, you could break the lulav. But third, and most importantly, is that spiritually, the idea of the lulav is drawing down divine energy. Each time we're shaking the lulav and bringing it back to our heart, we are bringing godliness from one of the corners of the world back to our heart. So when you have a pipe that is drawing down divine energy, you don't turn the pipe upside down. The pipe is straight. So we go downwards, but the lulav remains in the upright position. So we go down, back to our heart, down, back to our heart, down, back to our heart. And then we go behind us. Now, we're facing east. Ideally, you should be facing east, which is actually the way that I'm facing right now. You go over your right shoulder once, a second time over your right shoulder, and then the third time you go all the way. You turn over your shoulder, and then you bring it back to your heart. That is the way we shake the lulav and the esrog, each time bringing it back to our heart. In addition, there's another explanation given why we shake it in each direction is to ward off all the winds of the world, all the hurricanes and all the winds of the world, all the evil winds, the ruchos ra'os, the evil winds. We're pushing them away with the power of the lulav and the esrog. We push them away with our lulav, and we create godliness in each and every direction of the 6 directions of the world. Okay. And now, by the way, in the synagogue, we also shake the lulav during Hadassim, Jedis. Oh, is that like a Star Wars or something? I don't know. But it probably, everything comes from Torah. So, the last thing we're going to do tonight is I'm going to share with you an interesting medrash, not very well known, about the 4 species. Martha, I'm very glad to hear that you got a chance to check the lulav in the Esrog yesterday. That's you got the abbreviated version. Come to Chabad, we'll do the full version together. Okay, anyway. But it's a beautiful mitzvah. Of course, I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the idea that the 4 species represent the 4 kinds of Jews. I'll say it very briefly because it's very important to know this. Well, just very, very briefly, there is an estrog that has a beautiful fragrance and it has a beautiful taste, which is representative of a Jew that is both a scholar. Taste is a scholar that has depth, that has flavor, that has depth to him. And fragrance is generosity. You help others, you give to others. So you have the date palm, which has taste. The date, it comes from a date tree, but there's no smell. So that represents a scholar that is wise and educated and learned, but is not sharing that with others. The myrtle branch has a very, very beautiful smell. You're not going to smell it if you smell. You got to take off a leaf like this. These leaves fell off. And if you break the leaf, you crush it a little bit, just like crack it open, you will definitely smell the beautiful fragrance of the Hadassah. That represents a Jew that has generosity, that has kindness, that's always volunteering and doing things for others. He's a myrtle. He smells good. He has a good fragrance. He helps others. And you have the willow that has no taste and no smell, represents a Jew that is totally unaffiliated. They're not learned. They're not involved. They're not donating. Nothing. And the point is we gather all 4 species together in order to represent that God is, that the mitzvah is only everywhere. I couldn't resist, Jonathan. I had to say it. But that's not the novelty of tonight. There's a very, very beautiful novel interpretation I just learned recently from a medrash that says that these 4 species represent 4 of the fathers of the Jewish people: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Yosef. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Yosef, who in some ways is considered the 4th patriarch. What's the connection? So Avraham is the Esrog. How is Avraham the Esrog? Avraham is called V'hadarta V'zakim Baba Yam. Avraham is called, he was old in his days. Torah says that you should give V'hadarta Bnei Zakim, that there's a beauty in the face of a wise person, wise with wisdom and experience and knowledge. And the Esrog is called a pre-Eitz Hadar, a beautiful fruit. So the beautiful fruit represents the V'hadarta Pnei Zakim, the beauty of the face of Avraham. The lulav represents Isaac, Yitzchak. Why is Yitzchak represented by a lulav? The lulav is called a kapos tmarim. In the verse that I showed you earlier today, kapot tmarim means that it's bound together. In fact, we actually have a custom as well that besides for the rings that we put over here, we also put rings that are hidden inside the actual lulav. Inside, there are rings over there as well, representing how the lulav is bound together. And of course, Isaac is most famous for being bound together on the altar at the binding of Isaac at Mount Moriah, where he allowed himself to be bound together to be a perfect offering to Hashem. So he is signified by the kapos tmarim, by the deipa. The hadas, the beautiful myrtle branch, is representative of Yaakov, of Jacob. Why? Because the anaf eitz avos is a tree. The branch is completely covered by the leaves. As we said before, you don't see any of the wood. All you see are leaves. And so too Yaakov, that had many, many children. He had many kids, a minimum of 13, but perhaps he had even 26. He had many children. He was covered with children. Like if you ever saw me in shul, I have kids climbing all over me. He was kids climbing all over him. So he is represented by the myrtle branch. And Yosef is represented by the arava, by the willow. Remember I told you before that the willow is the first one to die. In fact, if you look at the bottom of the arava, it's already getting brown and dying. It's perfectly kosher. The top is green. But it's already starting to get a little yicky and yellow on the bottom. So this is the story of the arava. Not only is it not flavorful and fragrant, it also dies very quickly. And so too Yosef was the first of his brothers to die. It says that Vayamas Yosef, that Yosef died, and all of his brothers died, and the whole generation died. Meaning that the very first one of all of the brothers of the 12 tribes to die was Yosef. So just like Yosef was the first of the brothers to die, so too the arava is the first of the 4 species to become not kosher as well. Okay, so what's the message for us from that? Very interesting. I'm sure that Yonatan is watching, didn't know that, so he taught him something new. But the question is, what's the lesson for us? What are we supposed to do with that information? Now we know, I heard today, that there's approximately 390,000 different kinds of plants. 390,000 different kinds of trees, plants, flowers, etc. Of those 390,000 plants, 2,000 of them maybe 20,000 of them are edible. And of those, 200 of them are commercially sold, commercially produced, that you walk at the store, that you can find anywhere that you can buy lemon, whatever it is. So of all the 390,000 fruits, myrtle branches, they don't sell that in the store. You can't go into Publix and buy a willow branch or buy a myrtle branch or a date palm. They're not commercially produced. Of the even in Esrog, they don't sell this in Publix. So what's of all the 390,000 different species that God could have chosen to be used as the mitzvah of the lulav and the esrog, why specifically these? So today I learned something beautiful that I'm going to share with you. That on Yosukis, as we shake the 4 species, we have to ask ourselves a question about these 4 species based on the 4 forefathers that they represent. But in order to understand it, I want to add one more thing, one more fairly famous interpretation of the 4 species, but they're actually connected. The esrog is the heart. Looks like a heart. The lulav is the spine of a person. The hadassim are like eyes. If you look at it carefully, they have the shape of eyes. You see the eye shape? And the arava has the shape of lips. It's long like our lips. Right? So that's the lips. These 4 species, the esrog, which I said is Avraham, is connected to the heart. And on Sukkot, as we shake the lulav and the esrog, we need to ask ourselves, do I have a heart? But what kind of heart? Not just do I have a heart. Well, of course you have a heart. Your heart's beating, else you wouldn't be alive. Do I have a heart like Avraham Avinu? What kind of heart did Abraham, our forefather, have? Abraham was known, his primary identity was his chesed, was his kindness, was his unbelievable desire and willingness to share, to give, to be there for others. Abraham is very famously known for opening a big, beautiful hotel where anyone could come from all over, whether they were traveling, and they could come and they could stay in his home and they could eat his food. And while he was there, while they were there eating, he would teach them about thanking Hashem, and he was able to inspire countless people to become closer to Hashem because of the love, because of the sharing and the generosity he had. So as a Jew is holding this beautiful esrog in his hand, he has to ask himself the question, do I have a heart? But not just do I have a heart. Do I have a heart like Avraham Avinu? Do I have a heart of a Jew? Just say in Yiddish, a Yiddish heart, a Jewish heart, a heart that sees another Jew in distress and immediately says, what's the matter? How can I help you? What do you need, etc. Obviously, more to I'll tell you a story soon. Yitzchak is the date palm. The date palm is also the spine. And the Jew needs to take the lulav in his hand and needs to say to himself, I have a spine. Of course, I'm standing up. I'm able to sit in a chair on my own. Thank God I'm not a paraplegic. I have a spine. But do I have a spine like Isaac? Do I have a spine like Yitzchak? What's the spine of Yitzchak? Yitzchak was a man who stood up strong for his beliefs. Yitzchak was a person who, no matter what, stood up strong. He stood up tall. He stood up proud. When his father wanted to sacrifice him, he said, "Tie me." You could have run away. Why do you want to be tied? Yes, Randy, you're right. There was no doors. It was open in all directions. But Yitzchak is someone that was very, very proud of his Jewish beliefs. Yitzchak, when Avimelech came to make peace with Yitzchak, he says to him, "Why did you take my wells," etc. Yitzchak is a man with a spine, a man with pride. There are many, many Jews that are very, very generous. They're good people, and they love to help others, and they love to be there for give charity and be involved in worthy causes. But they're embarrassed. Not they're embarrassed of their Judaism. They're not proud. They're not willing to stand up with pride and say, "I'm a Jew." So they try and get involved in tikkun olam and saving the planet and saving humanitarian causes and save the whales and save the puppies. But they're a little bit shy to say, "I want to give my money to a Jewish school. I want to give my money to help keep Judaism alive, to help a shul." When it comes to standing up strong and tall, they have a beautiful heart, but their spine is weak. And so that's the question we have to ask ourselves. We shake the lulav and say, "I have a spine, but do I have a spine like Yitzchak? Am I willing to stand up proud and strong and tall for what I believe in the way Yitzchak did?" And there's more to it, but we're almost out of time, so let's move to the next one, to the Hadas. The Hadas, we said, is Yaakov, who was covered with children, but it's the idea of the eye. The idea of the eye. What's an eye? So we know that in Judaism, there's something called an ayin tova, a good eye, a positive eye. You know where you get a positive eye? So it says, Ezeu Chacham, who is wise, someone haraya es hanelad, who sees the future. He sees the future. Meaning, he's not just living in the moment. He's not just living in the present. But like Yaakov, it says that Yaakov saw Lavan, and he called his wives out to the field, and he said to his wives that I saw. The Hebrew words in the verse are, I saw the face of your father Lavan, and I saw that his face is not the same like it was in the past. Lavan is upset with me. He saw the future. He saw, not only he physically saw, he understood, he discerned, he had perception. He was able to see between the lines, and he saw that his father-in-law was upset with him, and he saw that he had no future to grow a family in Lavan, in Haran, in the home of Lavan. And Yaakov saw that he could stay here now, and yes, he had money living there now, and he had a job, and he had income, and he had everything he needed, but he had Jewish eyes. He had vision. He had foresight. He had the ability to see ahead and the ability to recognize that where I am is not where I will be able to build a Jewish family. And in fact, I'll bring the point out even more. When Yaakov was forced to travel from Israel to Egypt to meet his son Yosef, what is the first thing that Yaakov did? Even before Yaakov came to Egypt, maybe somebody that's watching can answer and tell us, what is the first thing that Yaakov did? Yaakov sent his son Yehuda ahead of them. Why did Yaakov send Yehuda ahead? Yaakov wanted Yehuda to do something very important. He wanted Yehuda to open up yeshivas, to open up a study hall. That by the time that Yaakov came to Egypt, there should already be set up a school building where all of the grandkids and the great-grandkids could study Torah. Yaakov had a Jewish eye. He saw that I have to invest in the future of Judaism. I have to invest and I have to leave where I am because this is not where my children will grow up with a Jewish identity. I need to make sure they're going to grow up with a Jewish identity, with a Jewish connection. So we look at the Hadas and we shake it and we say, I have eyes, but do I have Jewish eyes? Do I have the ability to look ahead and to see the future of Judaism? Finally, we come to the willow. What's the willow? The willow, thank you, Randy. The willow is the lips. And the willow, just like the lips, is representative of Yosef. Yosef HaTzadik, the righteous Yosef, who was living in Egypt amongst all of the immoral, debased culture of Egypt. You have a paradigm of holiness called Yosef. What was Yosef's uniqueness? So another beautiful story about Yosef is that when Yosef was first brought out of prison and brought to Paro, so if you're familiar with the story, Paro knew 70 languages. And Yaakov began to speak to Yosef Yosef began to speak to Pharaoh in each and every one of the 70 languages, and Pharaoh answered him in the 70 languages. And then Yosef began to speak to Pharaoh in Hebrew. Not in Hebrew, but in Lashon Kodesh, in the holy tongue. And when Yosef was speaking the holy tongue, that Pharaoh could not speak, and Pharaoh was embarrassed that Yosef knew a language that he, the king, didn't know, and he swore Yosef to secrecy that he would never tell anyone that he spoke a language that Pharaoh didn't speak. There's Hebrew and there's Lashon Kodesh. There's some Jews that speak Hebrew that don't speak a pure language, and some Jews that speak a pure language don't speak Hebrew. But the point is that he had a pure tongue. He had a holy tongue. He had a holy tongue. How do you talk? How do you talk? You can talk like a sailor. You can talk in a negative way. You can talk in an immoral way. You can talk in a depraved, improper way, or you can talk with dignity. You can talk with positivity. You can talk with kindness. You can talk with love. You can talk with being judging favorably. Yosef was a person that when his brothers came before him, and Yosef could do anything he wanted to his brothers, they were helpless before him. And Yosef could have easily gotten revenge against his brothers for what they had done to him 22 years earlier when they had thrown him into a pit and sold him as a slave to Egypt. Instead, Yosef uses his mouth to comfort his brothers. He uses his mouth to tell them not to feel bad and not to worry, and that it wasn't you who sent me here, it was God who sent me here, and it was all for a reason, in order to have food and during a time of famine, etc. The quality of Yosef, more than any other quality, was his mouth, his ability to interpret dreams, but most importantly, his ability to talk in a positive way. His ability to have not only a good eye, I mentioned the wrong person, but to talk with a lashon tova, to talk with a positive language, to be able to tell his brothers, I see holiness in what you did. You thought you were trying to sell me as a slave, but don't feel bad. God had a different plan for you. He knew how to speak a pure language, a lashon kodesh, a holy language that Egypt didn't know how to speak. And so as we shake the lulav and the yesser, we say to ourselves, I have lips. I know how to yente. I know how to gossip. I know how to talk. But do I have lips like my grandfather Yosef? Do I have lips that see good in others? Do I have lips that speak kindly about others? Do I have lips that are being used for holiness? And this, my friends, is a message for us. We take the lulav and we take the yesrog and we hold them together. And besides the four Jews, we remember that these four parts of our body, the heart, the spine, the willow, the lips, and the eyes, represent four of the greatest Jews that ever lived: Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov and Yosef. And each one had not just a heart, but Avram had a Jewish heart. Avram was a man of chesed, of kindness. And Yitzchak was a man of tremendous strength, of gvura. He was a man of dignity, a man of discipline, a man who refused to bend on his morals. The reason why Yitzchak lost many of the people of Avram's times is because Yitzchak was unwavering in his commitment to Hashem. Yitzchak was a beautiful lulav, straight like an arrow. The leaves tight together, didn't bend. And we shake the lulav and we say, do I have a spine like the lulav? Do I have a spine like my forefather Isaac that wouldn't bend for his beliefs? And we look at the Hadas and we say, do I have eyes like Yaakov? Do I see the future? Am I investing in ensuring that my eyes, not just my physical eyes, but my mental eyes, are seeing what will happen with my children the way I'm raising them now? Do I see how they will grow up? And finally, I have lips, but do I have lips like Yosef? Do I have lips that speak good about my brothers? Do I have lips that speak a holy language, a pure language, a dignified language, a language that's called Lashon Kodesh, a language of a Jew, and not the language of a sailor, not the language of a teenager, of a holy language. We bring them to our heart, and we instill in our heart the emotions of Abraham, of Yitzchak, of Yaakov, and of Yosef. That, my friend, is a beautiful new, it's not new, but new for most of us, beautiful interpretation and lesson in life from the four species of the Lulav and Esrog. I wish you all a good night. God willing, tomorrow night there'll be some kind of kasur. I'm not sure what yet, but I will be on Facebook, God willing, tomorrow night. Get back into the swing of our nightly classes. The last few weeks have been very, very hectic. Wednesday night we'll be at the Hebrew school. If you have kids, 5 to 6 o'clock. No reservation needed. There's no charge. It's open to anyone that wants to come. Thursday night at 8 p.m. at the Chabad Sukkah will be the men's club night out, the Scotch and Cigars. Also, you can join us, Suggested Donation 18. Saturday morning is Yiskar at 11:30, and Saturday evening at 6:30 will be dinner, followed by dessert and drinks and dancing all night. The Fabrengen outside, and the sukkah will be outdoors, so it'll be more COVID safe of celebration of Simchas Torah. My friends, God bless you with celebration, with joy, with happiness. Maybe tomorrow we'll do a Simchas Torah class. We'll talk about Simchas Torah, I think. That'll be a good preparation for Simchas Torah. Tomorrow night, not at 8, but at 8 o'clock, we'll do the Simchas Torah class. Good night, Luis. Good night, Andrea. Good night, everyone that's watching. May God bless you all with a very happy, healthy, joyful V'samachta. So let's sing a niggin in the sukkah. V'samachta b'chagecha v'hayisach sameach. V'samachta b'chagecha v'hayisach sameach. Ay-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay. Ay-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay-ay. Ay-ay-ay.